All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about one of the wildest, most unbelievable sporting events that ever happened. Seriously. This was a fight so massive, it couldn't even be held in the US. It had to be on a whole other continent. A fight that was bankrolled by a dictator and built on contracts that would change everything for two legendary men.
Wow. I mean, that one line just says it all, doesn't it? The fight, which everyone knows as the Rumble in the Jungle, was so much more than just two guys in a ring. It was this massive collision of politics, of national pride, of global ambition, and, just pure incredible spectacle.
And this is the number that made the whole thing possible. $10 million. For 1974, that was an absolutely mind-blowing amount of money. The promoter, a guy named Don King, promised $5 million to each fighter. Nobody, and I mean nobody, believed he could actually pull it off. But he did. And it all started with a contract.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How in the world did this gigantic American heavyweight championship fight end up in Kinshasa, Zaire, of all places? Well, the answer is this incredible story of global moving parts and some seriously high-stakes deal-making. Now, check out the time here, 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth so early? Well, it was all to accommodate the TV audience back in the United States. People would pack into theaters to watch it live on closed-circuit television. So just try to imagine that scene. You got 60,000 people crammed into a stadium in the middle of the night under the African stars, and the energy is just electric. They're all chanting Ali Bomaye, which means Ali, kill him. And this breaks it down perfectly. It was like this giant international puzzle. You had the fighters, Ali and Foreman, coming from the USA. You had the money guys, the financiers over in Europe. And then you had the stage, which was provided by the president of Zaire, Mobutu Sese Seko. He saw this fight as his big chance to put his country on the world map. It was a night that literally connected continents. But to really understand what was driving Muhammad Ali, you have to go back. I mean, way back. Before the money, before the fame, we have to look at his very first and maybe his most important contract. A promise that wasn't written on paper, but one he made to himself when he was just a kid. Believe it or not, the whole story kicks off right here, Louisville, Kentucky. A 12-year-old kid named Cassius Clay is just heartbroken because his brand new bike got stolen. He is furious, right? So he finds a police officer to report it, and he tells that cop exactly what he's going to do to the person who took it. And that's it. That's the moment it all changes. He shouts this at a police officer named Joe Martin, who, as luck would have it, also ran a local boxing gym. So Martin looks at this fuming little kid and says, well, if you're gonna whoop somebody, you better learn how to fight first. And right there, a legend was born.
So you see, that vow, that became Ali's real contract. It was a pact he made with himself. That promise is what fueled him to win an Olympic gold medal when he was just 18, to become the heavyweight champion of the world at 22, and ultimately to prove that he was exactly what he always said he was, the greatest.
But of course, every great story needs two powerful forces. And on the other side of this epic tale is George Foreman. He was a man whose journey to that ring in Kinshasa was forged in a completely different kind of fire. Foreman's early life was rough. I mean, really rough. He grew up in the slums of Houston, got into street crime, even ended up in prison. But then, at 16, he found a lifeline. It was called the Job Corps, a government program meant to give troubled kids a second chance. For Foreman, this was his one shot to escape the life he was heading for. So you can almost think of this as Foreman's contract. It was this kind of deal with society that offered him a way out, a path to redemption. And man, did he take it. He discovered boxing through the program, and he learned to channel all that anger and all that incredible power. He went on to win his own Olympic gold medal and became this undefeated, absolutely terrifying professional champion. So here you have these two incredible journeys, right? Forged in totally different worlds, but both driven by this deep personal contract to become somebody. One guy promised himself he'd be the greatest, and the other guy made a deal for a second chance at life. By 1974, it was pretty clear their paths were destined to cross in the most spectacular way you can imagine. And this slide just nails the public feeling at the time. You had Muhammad Ali, the poet, this charismatic people's champ who a lot of experts thought was past his prime. And then you had George Foreman, the power, just this silent, scary, destructive force who seemed absolutely unbeatable. That contrast, the beloved underdog against the invincible champion, that's what made the whole thing completely irresistible.
So when you look back at this amazing story, it really all boils down to those promises. The $10 million ones that were signed on paper, sure, but also those priceless ones made in the hearts of two young men who just refused to let their circumstances define them. So it kind of leaves me with a question to chew on. What's the most important contract you've ever made with yourself?